Well, November is fast approaching. We now have our confirmed candidates pending, any huge upset or event later in the year, which you never rule out, by the way, given, the legal issues, the age of both of these men. I don't want to kill them off too early, but things do happen. How are the polls? How are things tracking? What's your kind of calm view of things now that the primaries are over?
Yeah, the calm view of things is that people are already tired of this election. People on the far right are really excited about Trump winning the nomination. People on the far left are excited about Biden winning the nomination. And people in the middle are like, oh my goodness, do we really have to put up with this for the next 7 or 8 months? And the answer is yes. Keep in mind, Laura, this will be the longest general election in the history of our country. Both parties have never picked their candidates this early in the process. Of course, we've never had a former president running again in my adult lifetime. So it's going to be long. It's going to be tedious. What do you say? The polls, you ask about the polls. Trump is trending in the right direction. He had a great week. He just did. The Georgia case is falling apart against him. A judge ruled that one of the prosecutors needs to be removed from that case. That makes that case, that undermines the credibility of that case. And then the prosecution in the New York State case came in and said they forgot to give him a bunch of documents. And when I say a bunch, I mean tens of thousands of documents. And so the judge in that case has decided to delay the case by at least 30 days. It's been a great couple of weeks for Donald Trump. He's still trending in the right direction.
Yeah, he certainly is. And the trends are important, certainly. The overall sentiment, important as well. The media coverage and how he still, captures this audience as an entertainment value and all of that. But Mick, you're a numbers guy. You know how this works. And really, when it comes to November, it will be a handful of states. Swing states that will change hands if Donald Trump is to get there. Have you looked closely at where those states may or may not happen? What those states are?
Yeah, it's fascinating, Laura. There's about 5 or 6 of them. You and I will talk about them, but we've talked about them before. We'll continue to talk about them for the next several months. Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada. The really interesting one right now is Michigan. This is the one that has several 100,000 Palestinian American registered voters.
Oof.
This state was
how many? Say that again.
Several 100,000.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
In a state that Donald Trump won by 40,000 votes in 2016, more than 100,000 people voted uncommitted in the Democrat primary as part of an organized attempt to set a protest vote to President Biden over his support for Israel in the war in Gaza right now. If the Democrats, that is scaring the Democrats to death. Yeah. Because if they cannot turn those votes around, they cannot win without Michigan. I know it sounds strange to folks who elect their prime minister or their president nationwide. Again, we don't do it. We do it state by state. So no one cares about California. It's voting for Joe Biden. Nobody cares about South Carolina. It's voting for Donald Trump. Only those 5 or 6 states in the middle are really going to care. And a small group on either side, right or left, could change the entire outcome of an election come November.
It's really interesting what you say about the Palestinian voters. Is that, their number one vote driver? Is that what's going to drive them to vote? And they might be unhappy with Joe Biden's support of Israel to date. But Donald Trump's been pretty silent on the matter, has he? He hasn't been pressed on it. What is his view?
By the way, that's always the crystal ball part of our elections. It's very difficult to get somebody who voted Democrat last time to vote Republican. The number of voters who do that are extraordinarily low. The way that most people in this country protest, and again, it doesn't apply in Australia, the way you protest in this country, if you don't like what your own party is doing, is not to vote for the other party. It's to not to vote, which is, of course, legal in this country. And that's what the Democrats are afraid about in states like Michigan. On Israel, you asked a question about Donald Trump. He's going to be at least as pro-Israel as Joe Biden. He's not ashamed of it. He's very straightforward about it. He's very close to Benjamin Netanyahu. He will be backing Israel to the teeth all the way through the election. It's not going to move his electorate one way or the other. Most Republicans would tend to come down on the side of Israel in this war.